remember this day, remember this session where we've come together as the volunteers, VSO in Kenya, and recognizing the amazing work that you have all been doing. So you're part of the story. We're excited to celebrate you, and we're excited to have you here with us so that we can hear a lot more from your stories and your experiences. Okay, let's try this one last time. Are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? Yes. Fantastic. So without further ado, allow me to hand over to Frida Okomo. Frida, I hope you can hear us. Good morning, Frida. If you're speaking, you're muted, so we can't currently hear you. All right, let's check with Alice. Alice, can you hear us? And could you just let us know you can hear us? Okay, while technology is getting sorted, tell your neighbor, when was the last time you shared your VSO story? Turn to your neighbor, tell them. If it's never, just say never. And it is okay, it's an allowed answer.
She can hear us, but we can't see them. Okay, Frida is on the screen, okay. Can we just have that everything that you see?
Okay, show of hands. Shared last story, never. Shared your story, never. Please be proud of your answer. I mean, we are starting from somewhere. So shared your story, never. Okay, shared your story last week. Okay, shared your story 2 weeks ago. Okay. Now, I'm very curious. When we think of sharing stories, what are you thinking? Are you thinking that you must have told your story on social media? Social media? Okay. Told your neighbor? Told your sister, your brother? Told a cousin? Told somebody you met on the bus? Oh, nice. I like those who are telling people on the bus. So I'm just curious, did you have a VSO t-shirt? Were you branded? And then they ask, so what is that? And you're like, let me tell you. Okay. So we are going to be hearing how those brave people are telling their story to people on the bus. It takes guts, right? To tell someone on the bus that, hi, have you heard about VSO? And they asked, what is VSO? And where do you actually start to tell that story? It can sound hard. When was the last time you did something that you thought was very interesting? A book you read, a movie you watched. Book you read, movie you watched, and you thought everyone should know about it? How did you start? How did you start that process? Did you go like, I have to tell you something? We need to get that level of excitement for our VSO stories. I need to tell you something because the work that you do changes lives. True or false? The reason why people return as volunteers, we have returned volunteers in the house? Anyone here? Returning volunteer? Why do you keep coming back? You can just shout from where you are. Why do you keep coming back? Impact. Right. Why do you keep coming back? Passion. Why do you keep coming back? Passion. Passion, impact. So we want to tell people about the work that we're doing because we know it's changing lives. It's having an impact on someone. And it's something that you're deeply passionate about as well. When you see something good, you want everyone to know about this good thing. So we want to empower you to be able to tell your stories continually, every day, everywhere that you go, and in everything that you are doing every single day. Because I think those stories need to absolutely be told. Now, turn to your neighbor again. Today you're going to talk to your neighbor so many times. Turn to your neighbor again, and I'd like you to tell your neighbor one thing you're grateful for today. What's one thing you're grateful for today? Okay, so I hope we are thankful for many things. Now, we are ready for Frida. Right, I can see online, we see Funke saying, I'm grateful for the gift of life. Absolutely. Anyone here thankful to be alive? Show of hands. We are all grateful to be alive. Can we say, yeah? Thank you so much, Frida. Over to you now. Welcome.
Hello, Suzanne. Hi, everyone. Hope you're able to hear me now.
I can hear you, Frida.
I can hear you. Okay, thank you so much. A warm welcome to everyone for joining us online and in person at Kenyatta University, Nairobi. Karibuni sana. I'm so delighted to be your host for the virtual section of this event and to be joined by this amazing VSO Kenya community of volunteers and colleagues, both international volunteers, national volunteers, and ICS return volunteers. It's so great to see familiar faces and familiar names on the online chats. And it's definitely great to be home virtually and reconnect with you through this event. And I would like to know, I know you've had a chat of the people around you and where you're joining us from. So maybe if you can just tell us your highlights of your volunteering experience in the chat, and I'll just go ahead and introduce myself because I know now you know a bit about the people in the call and also in-person people around you. So my name is Frida Como, and my relationship to VSO dates back from 2019 in Nandi County, where I first volunteered as an ICS volunteer. So I've advanced to becoming a national volunteer under different capacities, serving under Challenge Fund for Youth Employment and also under the Active project. And right now I'm pursuing a master's in the UK. I'm doing a master's in global development and also volunteering with VSO as a green champion. And I will definitely say that my volunteering experience and my first volunteering in Nandi has been life-changing. It was quite daunting at first because 3 months being away from home, but I can truly attest that it was the best moment of my life that time, and it was really life-changing because it really transformed various ways of my life, so many aspects of my life. And what this event really means to me as a Kenyan who volunteered also in Kenya is the power of reconnecting. Today, coming here, meeting the faces that we've seen years ago, in the past years, and reflecting on our growth, on our volunteering journey, and how best we can forge ahead. And also, it reminds us on reflecting how our volunteering experience gave us the courage to discover more about ourselves. And today we take that step to go beyond just sharing our stories amongst ourselves, but also taking the step to share our stories to the world, because there is indeed power in sharing our stories. So let's be prepared to honor our volunteer journey and be inspired how we can serve while building ourselves professionally and personally through the power of sharing our stories. So as Susan has said, we have a number of activities lined up for you today, and it's going to be an interactive session for all of us, and I believe that you're looking forward to it and you'll definitely enjoy it. And the next session we are having is just to really test your knowledge about VSO Kenya with a quick and fun poll. So it's more of asking you questions about VSO Kenya and getting to know how best to know VSO Kenya. So we'll have some polls running online, and I think the in-person people joining from Kenyatta University can also take part in this. So the first question is, we would like to know, test your knowledge about VSO Kenya. How many counties does VSO Kenya work in? So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, we have 25. So go ahead and test your knowledge about VSO Kenya. How many counties do you think VSO Kenya work in? And also the second question we have, how many Kenyan nationals have volunteered with VSO outside Kenya? Not now within Kenya, but now outside Kenya. How many Kenyan nationals have done that? And the third one will be, how many young people from Kenya have volunteered on the International Citizen Service Program? I think this is one of the most common programs that we have in VSO. So how many people do you think from Kenya have volunteered under the ICS program, International Citizen Service Program? And the last one, which is what key programming areas is VSO Kenya known for? What do you know VSO Kenya for? Which programming is it? Sexual reproductive health and rights, girls education, climate change, youth employment, entrepreneurship, or social inclusion? So we would like to see how best you know VSO Kenya. Yes. So I'm seeing responses streaming in. We are left with 10%, 10 people, 10% of you are giving your votes, and then we'll just go through it. Okay, we can start going through the responses for today. So the first question, how many counties does VSO Kenya work in? So, okay, I'll give you a little bit more time because I'm seeing you're still voting. So I think we can go through it now. So under how many counties does VSO Kenya work in? I'm seeing we have a tie for 5 counties and also 20 counties. Now I'm seeing we have, oh, we're still voting. Okay. I'm seeing we have the leading number being 5 counties. We have a tie between 5 counties and 20 counties. And I would like to tell you that it's neither 5 counties or 20 counties, but VSO has gone beyond 5 counties and 20 counties. And right now, VSO Kenya is working in 25 counties in Kenya. That is like almost half, more than half of the counties, number of counties we have. So that shows how VSO has advanced in reaching out to as many counties as possible in Kenya. So the right answer is 25. So VSO Kenya works in 25 counties right now. So the next question is, how many Kenyan nationals have volunteered with VSO outside of Kenya? So we have 6% saying over 20, and then nobody said over 30, I'm wondering why. Over 40, there is 44%, over 50, there is 19%, and then we have over 60, which is 31%. So I think most of us are saying over 40, and I don't know, it's so inspiring to say that it's not over 40, actually, it's over 60. So over 60 Kenyan nationals have volunteered with VSO outside Kenya, and to be specific, the number is 68. So it really shows how, again, VSO has really advanced in also having as many volunteers, not only volunteer in Kenya, but outside Kenya. And the third one is a very common question now. How many young people from Kenya have volunteered on the ICS program? I know most of us are ICS return volunteers. Yeah, we volunteered. Our first point to VSO was through ICS. So how many young people from Kenya have volunteered on the International Citizen Service Program? and we have 31% saying between 1,000 and 1,500. And I feel like we are underestimating ourselves. So the answer here is the number of young people who are volunteered through VSO in Kenya are 2,686. And out of that number, 1,452 were Kenyan nationals. So yeah, I feel like we are underestimating ourselves. So that is the number of young people who are volunteered on the ICS program. And the last but not least, I know as volunteers, we volunteered under different program areas in VSO, and also we know different programming areas around VSO. So what key programming areas is VSO Kenya known for? We have sexual and reproductive health rights taking 50%, girls education, climate entrepreneurship, and I'm also seeing a vote on psychosocial support. So just to tell you, there are key programming areas in VSO that is VSO is known for, and sexual reproductive health rights is one of them. Girls education is one of them. Climate change also makes it to the list. Youth employment and entrepreneurship, definitely. We have disability and inclusion. For maternal health, no for now. And then for psychosocial support, I wondered how I've seen some of you put psychosocial support, which is an outcome of the project that VSO have, but it's not a defined programming area for VSO Kenya. So that is something that is open for discussion. And thank you so much for getting to test your knowledge about VSO. I think now you have a bit of idea of VSO Kenya, of how many volunteers have volunteered. Like I've been with VSO so far, both from outside Kenya and inside, from within Kenya, and also the different programming. So I'm going to go to the next section, and I would like to invite George Awala, who is the Business Pursuit Lead for Honor of Africa, and is going to provide more context about VSO Kenya. I will touch upon the VSO's rich history of volunteering in Kenya from the ICS program to active and even beyond that. So welcome, George.
Thank you very much, Frida. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, I can hear you.
Indeed, thank you. So, as Frida has said, I'm George. I work with VSO as a business pursuit lead for the Horn of Africa, and I'll take you through a 5-minute talk about VSO's 60 years. So it will be an interesting challenge, but I will try to be brief. VSO started operations in Kenya in 1959. School, one of our English teachers when I was in Form 2 came in for a brief period of time, and she was a VSO volunteer. VSO over the years has diversified its work. It's gone beyond just doing education. There is more work that we do in health, in livelihoods. We are building community resilience. We've gone into new spaces like looking at issues of peace building and social cohesion. We've had really interesting support to the technical and vocational education system in Kenya, working in Rift Valley, in the coast, and a host of other areas, supporting the education system, the health system, workforce development, and also just looking at new challenges like youth and employment, youth and their voice, youth and their aspirations, which are newer elements of the work that VSO has been doing. There have really been many exciting moments for VSO. Myself, I've lived through maybe this is the third strategy that VSO has, if I count the time that I also did volunteer with VSO in Nigeria. And over that period of time, VSO has really evolved, has been able to really change and demonstrate that it's really a dynamic organization. In the year 2000, VSO established South to South International Volunteering, which was really new in the development sector because many relied on volunteers who came from the north. So that could be US, Western Europe, or Canada, or Australia, but very few, or there were no entities that really moved Southern volunteers to go and volunteer and support other developing countries. So that was really bold, challenging the stereotype that, technical assistance and volunteering can only come from the rich countries. And so around 2000, VSO started recruiting Kenyans to go abroad to other countries. I was amongst the first 6 volunteers to volunteer with VSO, and it was a really rich experience because the Southern volunteers offered something that was very unique. They had technical expertise, but they also had a very different perspective about how development should happen because they had the lived experiences of the challenges of development and poverty. So I remember even my European and American colleagues, they found it a bit difficult to fit into Nigeria. But for me, it was easier. There were new challenges that we were dealing with in the early 2000s, like the HIV pandemic. And VSO sourced experts from Uganda and placed them with partner organizations, with government, with other institutions to fight the pandemic because they were using experiences that they had lived, and Uganda was quite advanced in terms of HIV and AIDS programming. So we can see how dynamic VSO has been. And then VSO also moved into really integrating youth into the mainstream volunteering programs and set up specific youth volunteering initiatives like ICS, the International Citizen Service, which many, maybe amongst the audience, have been part of. But there were other volunteering programs like Global Youth Exchange, the Strategic Technical Assistance Program, which was run through the Netherlands. There were other diaspora volunteering programs that also really challenged the way people are thinking about how you can work with different types of people to bring positive development outcomes. At some point, also, VSO was running the Commonwealth Fellowship Program, and also was a leader in the development space because I remember at some point VSO had a press unit that used to publish books, and these books were developed in collaboration with ITTG, which is now called Practical Action, and they would really be like thought leaders in the development landscape. Whether it was issues of working with cook stoves, solar systems, practical solutions to problems that people are experiencing, these books really generated that new development thinking, participatory approaches, managing community development, etc. Then at some point, VSO also ventured into the policy and advocacy space. And here in Kenya, VSO was very instrumental in the creation of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, managing community development, etc. Then at some point, VSO also ventured into the policy and advocacy space. And here in Kenya, VSO was very instrumental in the creation of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, national volunteering policy, VSO played a big role. Then issues of, at some point, VSO also ventured into the policy learners space. And here in Kenya, VSO was very instrumental in the creation of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, including even registration of self-help groups. VSO played a big role in the enactment of acts or policies. And VSO was also very bold. We were among the first organizations that also started looking at what will devolution mean for Kenyans and started training volunteers and also helping the community members to understand this new form of governance and what it means for the county. And that engagement with counties has continued. We currently have MOUs with 6 county governments. We have MOUs with the Ministry of Education, very good working relationships with the Ministry of Labor and Children's Services, building on this rich history of being able to influence change and strengthening systems for government and also enabling communities to become more resilient. Something else that
Recording in progress.
interesting is that VSO health and livelihoods. We started looking at what's the space for gender, what does social inclusion mean, resilience building, peace, social cohesion within communities, and even looking at girls' education more deeply, foundational learning and early childhood development education. So these are emerging areas that VSO has been able to demonstrate that it not only just has an interest, but is also a thought leader in those aspects of work. Very innovative ways of doing things around sexual reproductive health, family planning, looking at communities that are very marginalized, using religious leaders to really get into communities and pass messages, and also change communities in terms of their outlook on specific issues, including sexual reproductive health, family planning, and other contentious issues that could also be there within communities. Yeah, so I've talked about advocacy. VSO has also won numerous awards, Social Inclusion Award in Kenya 2018, but also globally, VSO has really been a thought leader in issues around volunteerism. Yeah, so really very proud to be associated with VSO as a change maker. I've had the privilege of serving VSO as a volunteer, worked in different units in VSO, in programming, in recruitment, in business development, knowledge management, currently in fundraising. And yeah, I believe everyone in this gathering is a change maker, and we can continue inspiring others and helping them to dream big, change their communities, and really bring value into social development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, George, for that, and for trying to fit in 60 years in 5 minutes. You've done justice to that, and I've learned that how volunteers like VSO has grown from having a few programs to more programs, from few and volunteers to a number of volunteers. And thank you so much for sharing that. And we are going to our next section, and this section is more of the VSO voices. And this is, I love this part. Because it's more of, we are going to get to learn from volunteers on what volunteering has done to them, not only what they've done to their community, serving their community, but also the achievements, some of the highlights of their volunteering experience. So this section is not only through reflection, but also learning from our past, learning from our experiences as volunteers. And because it's only through reflection that we get to discover how much we've grown and the progress that we've made. And this section is just it. And with us, we have Susan, who is in person, joining us from in person. She's going to take us through this section. And I know Susan started the session, and I don't know if she introduced herself, so I'll have the honor of introducing Susan. So Susan is an experienced leadership and career coach who supports managers, executives, and professionals when they need clarity for their career, job, leadership, or personal circumstances. She has a broad coaching and consulting experience across various industries, including banking, retail, insurance, international NGOs, hospitality, and education. Giving her passion for she has a passion for equipping young professionals with skills to help them succeed in the workplace. And we're so honored to have Susan with us today. Over to you, Susan.
Love it when technology does things to you. Anyone ever get stuck on technology and you're wondering, oh my goodness, what is going on? Thank you so much, Frida. We really appreciate. Thank you for that lovely introduction as well. Are you ready to hear from some volunteers? Are you ready to hear some stories? Oh, we've gone back again. Are you ready to hear some stories? Yes. Let's try this without the microphone. That's much better. So you need to be motivated by me not having a microphone. Right, got it. Now I know how we continue from here on. It is my distinct pleasure to invite onto the stage to be sharing with us a little bit about their story. Lucy Asewe, welcome to the stage. Can we encourage her as she's coming up? Marina is going to be joining us online. So Marina, thank you so much for joining us. Marina will be joining us online. Then we have Gerishon. Gershon Were, thank you very much. Welcome to the stage. And then last but definitely not least, Mbaire Kamau. Karibu, karibu sana. Okay, so let me just introduce something so that we do things a bit differently. So in Kenya, in parliament, when people say something powerful, what do? Thank you. So in place of clapping, we're going to be stomping our feet. When we hear something that really touches us, we're going to go ahead and stomp our feet. So welcome. How does it feel to be front and center? Okay, they laughed. It means they are so confident, they are so excited, they can't wait to share their stories. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them to quickly introduce themselves before we hear from them on the different topics that they'll be sharing with us. So I'll start with you, Mbaire. Tell us.
Hello, everyone. Stomp some feet for me. Thank you. My name is Mbaire Kamau, but I am popularly known in the VSO circles as Caroline, but I since dropped that name, Caroline, so Mbaire Kamau. I was an ICS volunteer in 2016 and then became a team leader in the same community, Loitoktok, in 2017. Currently working with the African Wildlife Foundation as the senior youth officer. And I'll tell you more of what I do. Thank you for the stomps, yeah.
Hello, everyone. You know, when I came here, my blood went up and down. So forgive me if you see the blood pressure, okay? So my name is Gershon Were, and I also volunteered with ICS. I joined ICS in 2014, volunteered in Kilifi. Then I became a team leader in Machakos. Then a team leader in South to South North program in Nigeria. And then from there, then I continued my engagement with VSO in different capacity, assessment, social inclusion training, and all the rest. And at the moment, I am in business. I do manufacturing of fresh juices, peanut butter, honey. And at the same time, I work for an organization called Give Power as a track leader.
Thank you. Good morning. Hello. Hi. Hi, please. Hi again. Aya, VSO team, Oya. Thank you. My name is Lucy Asewe. I'm a teacher by profession. I was not an ICS volunteer, but I almost volunteered in Oloitoktok. Yeah? But God destined that I had to be a volunteer. So I have volunteer as a community volunteer in Seya County, and right now I am volunteering as a national volunteer, inclusive education advisor in Kilifi County, and I'm so happy to be here, and I'm humbled to be in this panel.
Awesome. Just hold on to that microphone. I'll come to you, Lucy. But before I do, Marina, welcome. We can all see Marina joining us online. Marina, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Time as well. I started my first volunteer assignment in 2016 in Tanzania. And at home in the Netherlands, I work for a company called Randstad. We have VSO that I've been very engaged with over the last 6 years. And now I'm doing my second VSO assignment in the Ways to Work project in Nairobi.
Great. Thank you so much. So yes, Marina in the room, I'm sure you can't hear it, but they're stomping to acknowledge and recognize you. And for those who are online, please go ahead and just give those reactions. So let those reactions go when you hear something amazing that you want to acknowledge. Now, Lucy, I'm going to start with you. You talked about Kilifi. So please share with us a success story or an achievement that stands out for you in your role in Kilifi.
Kilifi is based at the coastal area of Kenya, most of us know. Just like any other coastal region, it's full of tourists and it comes with its challenges. It's poverty-stricken, and most people for the longest time did not value education. So when I came to Kilifi, there were very low level of parental involvement in education of learners. But after our intervention through the child rights clubs, children are now demanding for their rights. Like that the people reporting that this person has been married off this child was trafficked, and we are able to follow up and bring them back. And there is increased and intentional parenting with the schools that we work with. So for me, that stands out a lot because it's supporting education.
I can see people are getting tired of stomping. Should I have mercy on you and say no more stamping and say you can clap instead? Right. So thank you so much. So you said that you're now hearing from the communities and they're saying these children who are being married off, now that's not happening anymore. What are some of those other positive changes that you saw through the result of your work?
Yeah, so also inclusion has been an issue. I think it's a national issue. As much as Kenya, we say we are embracing inclusive education, but we are not really doing it 100%. So just like any other typical school, there are still learners who are using wheelchair, but there are stairs all over. So we trained BOMs, parents, and we've had these small circles for parents to learn, just like teachers' circles of learning. So through those, we call them support groups for parents. Initially, they were for parents with children with disabilities, but later on, even parents with children, like children without disabilities, showed interest to learn about positive parenting and also be advocates of education for their children. So through this, we've seen more schools that build adaptive spaces for learners with disabilities. We've seen more ramps being constructed in schools. We've seen the rift between BOM, head teacher, and parent solving out because everybody now kind of understands their roles, and then they're in this together to fight for inclusive education for all learners. Yes.
Inclusive education. I like the sound of that. Do we like the sound of that? Inclusive education. And that's part of the VSO story, right? So thank you so much, Lucy, for sharing that. So you mentioned integration of education with livelihoods, and you also talked about the involvement of youth in social accountability training. How have these initiatives impacted the stressors faced by learners?
So, like I said there's poverty somewhere. I hope we noted, right? So, I believe education is not a Solomon jargon. Yeah, so everything affects it. Health affects it. Livelihood, where there's no good livelihood, it affects learning. It doesn't only affect parents, but also it changes learners to be fenders. So in Kilifi, there are learners who actually go to school to get food, to carry that food home for the parents. So we have managed to support, in the parent support group, we managed to bring in the aspect of entrepreneurship training, livelihood training, and also linking them to livelihood opportunities within the county government. And we've also tried to work with the government offices and stakeholders to support also parents with other opportunities, and also develop policies that support some of their work in the livelihood sector. So that has resolved the issue of learners missing school to go and sell cashew nuts, korosho, right? And then in the Child Rights Club also, we are not only doing rights awareness, but we are bringing in aspects of reproductive health. We are bringing in aspects of livelihood. So they're able to learn amongst themselves and push the agenda forward in a very safe space. Recently, I was in a school and we were conducting social accountability activity. But when we were done, learners were like, Teacher Lucy, we need to see you. So when I went, they were like, do you know one of us got pregnant and then she gave birth and then the mother doesn't want her to come back to school. So they were like, we told teacher so and so she's not doing anything, so we are asking you to tell them to do anything. That was impressive. The fact that they're able to know also policies like return to school and be their own champions was impressive. So when we solve these, we are solving future livelihood issues. And then in the clubs, we're also bringing in part of other technical skills like kitchen gardening, beading, some technical skills. So when they go home, they transfer the kitchen garden home. It solves the part of missing food and then other things. So also in the support groups, parents have now become the champion for their learners. Issues where it is men abusing our learners. Why are they abusing learners? Because I cannot afford pad. So my uncle will tell me, I'm giving you pad, but in return, you have to have sex with me. So we are empowering champions, male champions, to be champion of rights of learners. So in that case, we are empowering learners about their rights, the community about the rights of the learners, but also empowering parents to be the providers of learners and take responsibility for the learners. So this has improved involvement of parents, has also improved advocacy within the parents themselves, and has improved also learners' attendance in school. Most parents are now enrolling learners in school. Most of the learners with disabilities, most of them were left home to do the manual jobs, to get paid, but they never see that pay. Funny thing. They work so hard because I am deaf. I will be put in a shamba, I will work. My mother is paid, I don't see that pay. So right now it is reversing because learners are demanding for their rights. Yeah.
Thank you. That is definitely something that's really amazing. And I like what you've said about accountability. I like also what you've said about raising awareness and creating just that sense of responsibility. And it's the learners creating the sense of responsibility in their parents and those who actually have the duty to care for them. Thank you so much, Lucy. Can we acknowledge Lucy for that amazing work?
Thank you.
Okay, clearly I had mercy on all of you. If it makes sense to clap, clap. If it makes sense to stamp your feet, stamp your feet. I do not want to have a hindrance to us celebrating the amazing work that we are doing as VSO. So thank you all so much, and thank you so much for that story. And Lucy is going to be here. If you'd like to hear more from her, please see her during the breaks, see her during lunch, see her after the event at the end of the day, and get to learn more from her. Now, I'd like to turn our attention to the screen to Marina. So Marina, once again, thank you so much for joining us and being here with us. Could you briefly tell us about the objectives of the Waste to Work program and the work of the Kilimanjaro group? Over to you, Marina.
Yes, thank you so much. So as mentioned before, I'm a volunteer in the Waste to Work project, which is funded by the IKEA Foundation. And the purpose of this project is to improve the livelihoods of vulnerable and marginalized youth who are working in green youth-led startups. And the project has a total target group of 3,900 young people. So it's a huge project and very complex. And we're trying to reach them directly through the project, creating decent jobs for them. But also it has a bit of an environmental focus. So we are also having the target of 6,000 tons of waste collected and 4,000 tons of emission savings. So of course it's called the Waste to Work project, focusing on the waste recycling sector. And this project is in Nairobi, Mombasa, and Kisumu. And the outcomes of this project that we're hoping to achieve is to create more asset and leadership for the young green entrepreneurs that we're working with, creating decent jobs, helping the green youth-led startups to scale their businesses and therefore creating even additional decent jobs. So yeah, that are some of the outcomes that we're hoping to achieve with the Waste to Work program. And we do this by 4 different buckets, as we call them. So we're always starting with a mobilize bucket to really go to the communities and mobilize green entrepreneurs who want to be part of our program. And then they will move to the spark bucket. So really try to help them to move to a higher level by providing technical and entrepreneurship training. We also give them startup kits so that they can grow their businesses or generate innovation. And then after that, they could move to the nurture bucket. So in the nurture bucket, we focus on a number of high-performing businesses because we want to provide them something extra still. So want to provide some seed funding so that they can really scale their business and provide some more job opportunities for others. And finally, we also have the link bucket. So that's actually a very important one, because within that, we're trying to connect the green entrepreneurs to the market out there, because there's a lot of companies and organizations who are interested in buying the waste that they collect. However, for the youth, it's not always that easy to make those connections. So we're trying to support and facilitate the linkages between the young green entrepreneurs and the companies out there so that they can increase their sales. And then the project that I am personally working on is the Kilimanjaro project. So last year in 2019, in 2023, we organized the Kilimanjaro Challenge with employees from Randstad, the company that I work for. And we had 19 people participating from 8 countries around the world. And the goal for each of them was to raise 5,000 euros. And they did that by raffles, cupcake sales. So they did a lot of activities in order to raise funding for this project. And in total, they managed to raise 103,000 euro, which I think is a great amount. And we're using this to, well, sort of do an add-on project to the Waste to Work project. As mentioned, the Waste to Work project is really big, focusing on 3,900 youth. However, with the Kilimanjaro project, we just selected a small group of 200 young women. And we want to organize a few additional activities for them, because we see that women often face a lot of additional challenges which are not fully addressed by the bigger Waste to Work project. So we want to use this funding to really focus on these young women and to come up with additional interventions to support them in becoming very successful.
Thank you so much, Marina. So 3,900 youth and over 200 women with the Kilimanjaro project. That is absolutely amazing. And you've begun to talk about the challenges that are faced by women and some additional strategies. Could you just share some of those strategies with us that you and the team have identified to support these women in creating decent jobs through the waste recovery and value addition process? Marina.
Yes, so as mentioned before, we do see that women often face additional gender-specific challenges. So one of them, for example, is that women are often found in the lower tier jobs, so working in the waste picking, separating the waste, for example, while the men dominate the higher income and decision-making roles. So they often earn much more than the women, and the women are often excluded from the waste management activities when they are formalized. So that makes it a bit challenging for them to really get into the higher positions and earn more. Other challenges that we see are certain risks that they face, like harassment or abuse. For example, when they go to the dump sites, there's often like a cartel system where, they have less opportunity to work in, they're harassed by other people there. And then there's also sanitary challenges like access to toilets, lack of support in childcare. So often we see the young mothers taking their children to the dump sites, which is, of course, terrible environment for the children, but also difficult for the mothers to, on the one side, work, but also taking care of the children at the same time. And of course, it's a very unsafe environment. So we do see that they're struggling with accessing essential goods and services like food, water, due to the lower income. So those are some of the challenges that we see. However, I do want to say as well, even though there's a lot of challenges, I also see so much energy in the women. Like when we talk to them, they have an amazing spirit and they really want to change something. So we see also when we provide training for them, sometimes compared to the men groups, they pick things up really, really quickly and they really want to make a change. So we see also a lot of power. And what I've really personally loved seeing when working with them and talking to them, they're also very social. They want to help the women around them. Like when they go as an aggregator and work with the women from the dump sites, they really care about them and want to help them as well. When we look at the groups, they want to attract more women. It's not about making a bigger income, but really about like a social group, supporting each other and making sure that there is some sort of like family taking care of each other. So besides these challenges, I think there's also yeah, a lot of really, really good coming out of these groups, and I'm very inspired by them. So for the activities that we have lined out for the Kilimanjaro Challenge, so on the one hand, we want to establish 2 women-led community buyback centers. So these are centers where they can collect and store their waste so that they can have bigger volumes to sell to the market. And also here we want to make sure that there is a childcare center attached to the buyback centers, because as mentioned before, that's one of the big challenges we see. So we want to make sure while the women are their children are in a safe environment and taken care of. We also want to provide water and sanitation facilities so that they have a safe environment again to work. So these activities or interventions are a bit broader than the general Ways to Work program. We also want to focus on healthcare access, want to also provide additional training like GBV training, for example, healthcare clinics, things like that, which we already did during a wonderful Women's Day, actually, last Friday. And then also provide additional training, for example, on value addition. So we want to really focus on how they can create more value from the waste than just throwing it or selling it. Because you can, of course, do a lot of good things with the waste as well, recycling it, making new products out of it. So currently, for example, we're working on a training schedule so that they can learn different techniques to upcycle the waste that they've been collecting in order to also earn some more income. So those are a few of the interventions that we're looking into right now.
Thank you so much, Marina. And just listening to you talk, I can just imagine the impact on the women who are now earning more because of the skills that you've empowered them with. I'm also hearing you talk about creating safe environment for their children, which essentially means that the children no longer have to be unsafe. And of course, the women who then come to work are more confident that they can do good work because they're not torn in terms of what they're thinking about their children and also trying to get their job done. Thank you so much, Marina, for sharing those insights about some of the challenges, of course, that you're seeing, but more importantly, the amazing work that you're doing in giving these women decent jobs, and not only decent jobs, but you're giving them something that they can take forward in terms of skills, in terms of experience, and in terms of just a space where they are heard and understood. Thank you, Marina. I think let's acknowledge Marina and her team for the amazing work that they've done. And I want to now come into the room and to Gershon. So I think you've had a very interesting experience, just as a volunteer now doing what it is that you do. But when you reflect on your time as an ICS volunteer within that ICS program, what are some of the most impactful lessons or impactful experiences that you gained during that time?
Thank you so much. I think when we came in the morning, you asked us, what does VSO mean to us? And back there, I was responding and I said, for me, VSO is home. Because every time I come, I see every baby step that we've made to be where we are in this organization. So starting, I think Anne Kahuria was in my interview and Jojawala. I was very shy, very, very shy. I think going out of that interview, I thought that I had failed. But because of ICS outcome, one of the outcomes was to see somebody growing, and that's one of the reasons that I was selected. And if everyone who is in this room that have gone through ICS will share with you how immense growth you get as a person, building your confidence and self-esteem, because you're a young person jumping in this space, and then you just start in by like going to offices, negotiating and trying to build contract and trying to support organizations, support projects, something that you probably will not do out of the blues the way ICS put you in that space to do it. The other one is financial literacy. And this is literally, nobody really pick it up much, but that allowance that you're given is supposed to last you 1 week. That allowance is supposed to last you 1 week. And as a young person, you have this money and freedom all together. It is up to you to make the decision how you're going to spend it. Understand? So you have to become conscious and know that as much as my friend can eat pizza, I need to manage mine because my placement is a bit distance, or I have to manage my money so that I can be able to get up to the weekend and support myself. So that's one of the outcome that, looking at it now, it's very impactful because when you now earn a salary, you kind of start planning and being cautious on how you spend. The other thing is the cultural integration and just accepting people for who they are. Because what ICS does is like you place in a placement, you're living with somebody from a different background in a hostel of somebody who is also from a different background. So all these almost three cultures put together plus people personality, and you're going to live together, work together for the next 3 months, and you have to come out with that, with the results from that. So when you look at that and you reflect to yourself right now, you understand that at the end of the day, we have our differences, but we can embrace our strength and work together to be able to achieve the goal that we have to achieve. So those are quite but a few of the things. And the other key one is understanding that the solution to your problem is just within your reach. And this is something that I think for ICS, and especially working in Nigeria, where you have a borehole not working for 3 months, but there's somebody who repair boreholes in the community, but nobody wants to speak to them or nobody is thinking in that direction. And ICS alumni, you have to come in this space and start thinking solution in such a way that, okay, this is not working. Where do we start from? The community themselves, they start telling you, oh, by the way, we have somebody who goes around repairing boreholes. So it's trying to also understand that your solutions are quite close to your reach, and being able to understand how to channel the steps in terms of like getting solutions to those problems that you are facing without fear, scared, and confidence, and just eliminating each barrier step by step.
Does anyone believe Gershon was shy? Anybody here? Do you believe him? Can you even visualize a shy Gershon? It's very hard, eh? So we can actually see the power of the program on you, Gershon. And for those who are just joining us online, if you'd like to just drop any thoughts or comments, or even just to celebrate the stories that you're hearing as we share them, please go ahead and do that. So looking at the work that you do now, and I believe you said you're in business now, and your career, how do you see the continued impact of that ICS program on yourself, on your life, and how you do your things?
Thank you. I think one of the things that we said when we were doing our volunteer program and afterwards, we had this term that we said, once a volunteer, always a volunteer. What this means is that I think most of the time we associate volunteer with organization. But then we forget that everything that we do in daily life, at some point you don't get paid for it, but you still learn or do something impactful. So first of all, to begin with, is that for me, after volunteering, the journey continued. There's no day that I woke up thinking that now it's different. I've finished volunteering, now I'm starting a new life. The life is the same, and we kept on doing whatever we wanted to do, continuous on life. And one of the outcome for ICS was active citizenship. I think for me, coming out of ICS is that the first thing that we did is the project that we did at home to try to celebrate persons with different persons with disability in Machakos. And then we kept on building on these things and passion and drive that was trying to focus. I had a bit of advantage because I was able to work with ICS also in Balloon, which is entrepreneurship. And from that aspect, I kind of looked and said, how do I want to make a long-lasting impact? That I would look and say, this guy was from zero and now they're here. And that was kind of my drive into business. And then I asked myself, in which business then am I able to look around and be able to like create a whole difference or a bigger impact? I looked at agriculture, and which is also value add in this sense. And the first idea that we started with was like peanut butter. And as I said, ICS teaches you how to solve problems with things that are within your reach. When you're going to start a business, and I know we make a lot of business plan, juggle a lot of these big words there, and then you get scared eventually when you read your own words in your own business plan. And this is the thing, because at that moment you are looking at things that are too ambiguous, that maybe you're not realizing that I want to solve this. This is what I want to do. How do I start from where I am? So what you start is like so these are things that we pick from ICS, and you ask yourself like, I want to do this business. How do I start it? You start step one. This is what I need. So we started by just doing a simple testing, buying and selling, and not producing. And then step by step, we started looking into production, and then we went set up and everything up to where we are. But there's a challenge within the journey as an entrepreneur, because you understand there's a lot of risk, especially if you're in agricultural value chain. And looking at agricultural value chain that I am in, which is peanut butter, which is not very formal. So you start making deliberate intentions in terms of inclusiveness. You start looking and asking yourself, how many women are supplying me? Because intentionally through ICS or through the volunteer program, you are now consciously aware that whatever you do, you have to do it with good and try to create impact out there. So when you're looking at your suppliers, you question those things. How many suppliers are women? What are some of the challenges that they supply? If they tell me I don't have product today, I wasn't able to deliver because of ABCD, then are you able to come back and understand the challenges that different people face in this agriculture, especially gender or persons with disability within the same industry? So you become consciously aware of those things. And then also it's just the ethic of doing business. Asking yourself, do I cut shortcuts and then get the end results, or do I still do the long way, do the right thing, that I am confident about my product, that if I give you, I would be confident and talk about it that because I trust in it. Because then now you start understanding those things, and those are the things that ICS now come and create those culture in a conscious awareness around you on how you're doing things and how you're supposed to do the right things and things like that. And in the long run also, it's just like looking at yourself and asking yourself, what is the end goal with all this? Understand? I don't want you, because business is also can be very isolating. And when you said business, I think Alex Kamanga usually like posting this thing on his WhatsApp, and he says, if you want to be so close to God, try starting a business. That's the moment you're going to go a lot on your knees, because when you don't have money and you don't know the next answer, or you've walked around and you get rejection all over, and you don't know what to do, you come and sit alone and just start to think around, and then solutions just come from somewhere else. So that resilience is something also you pick in the program, because those resilience is something that is very key as a person, and you're going to do whatever you're doing, even in career, research, and things like that. So there are quite a lot, but I think, yeah, that's
There is no doubt that Gershon is passionate about active citizenship. He's passionate about business. And of course, he's passionate about translating what he has actually learned and his life experiences into his work. Thank you so much for sharing that. And of course, if you've been thinking, I'd like to start a business, but I've written the business plan, I got tired after reading the business plan, please find him and talk to him about how to ditch the business plan, but actually start a business that thrives. Because peanut butter, you said?
peanut butter, fresh juice, honey.
Peanut butter, fresh juice. He'll probably tell you all his ups and downs, and I'm sure there are many. So please make a point to talk to Lucy, make a point to talk to Gershon, and of course Marina, who's online. Now, Mbaire, I want to ask you the same question that I asked Gershon. In terms of those memorable experiences that you had as part of your ICS volunteering, what are those memorable ones that you can share with us?
Would I be greedy if I said the entire experience was
Well, pick one or two
phenomenal.
that really stood out.
Yes. And since Gershon and I were in the ICS program, a lot that he shared is what I will also share, but I will highlight 3 key things. First of all, and I think George Awala said when he was completing his remarks a few moments ago, that what VSO is about is making change makers. And I think one of the memorable things is that I entered that place and left a change maker. And the first thing is thank you.
Please, feel free. Don't hold back. If you want to celebrate, celebrate.
The first thing is the holistic and intentional introduction to the world of development. Everyone who's been in ICS can tell that the program is intentionally designed from the interview, I think even from the application process, yeah? The kind of questions you're asked, the interview itself. Initially, I just thought is those interviews, you go sit in front of a panel and then answer questions. You're taken into this boardroom and they immediately give you an exercise. So here are resources. It's a newspaper. a soda bottle, and then you have to utilize your resources properly. So from the moment I walked into the interview room, I was hooked, and I knew this is the program I want to be in. And why was it significant? I had just graduated in the previous year in 2015, and I knew, so I graduated in law, and I knew I don't want to practice. But then you see your peers advancing, they're in law firms, yeah? And you know you don't want that to be your life. So I was very lost. So finding ICS at the moment it found me, and the intentionality with which the programs was designed, it really chaperoned me into the world of development, introduced me to a completely new world, opened my eyes, ignited something that maybe was still there, but you didn't know was there, and now they do it so intentionally. Even the way the orientation was done, it was not lecture style where you're told, okay, this is what you'll be doing in the next 3 months, yeah? And even the elements like placements. So I was fortunate enough, I was placed at an NGO that only existed on paper, but not in action. And so we're here, 2 volunteers, a UK, a British, and a Kenyan, and these people think we're experts, but we're also lost. But, but thankfully, we had been provided very good resources at the orientation, and also we had the project coordinators that were guiding us. And so within a very short period of time, the cycle ran for 3 months. You knew how to identify problems in an organization. You knew how to conduct needs assessment, how to bring communities together, what Gershon was saying, the whole, it was so intentionally designed, yeah? To the point of now coming up with a solution, implementing it, not just giving them a strategic plan and leaving them like that, actually implementing, because towards the very end, you have this long reference document that you have to write, and we would always ask ourselves, do you think 3 months is enough? But we were writing our experiences against the competencies. I think there were about 8 competencies, and you had to give tangible examples of what have you done in each competency. The fact that I have, I think, a 30-page document from 3 months already tells you how impactful the program was. So the firstly is that intentional and holistic introduction to the world of development. Second, and I was just talking to Veronica, who was a volunteer when I was a team leader. We were seated together, you asked us a question, neighbor, and she, as Gershon, was also very shy and an introvert actually, and she was just telling me about one experience. They were in a remote area in Loitoktok, Rombo, and how she witnessed women transporting water. You know, you have a child on your back, but you have to carry a jerrycan on your head, another one with your feet, and you're rolling another one on the ground, and how such an immersive process changes your perspective. So that holistic introduction. The second memorable experience is the tangible impact at an individual and at a community level. So I was fortunate, I was taken in as a team leader. And when you're a team leader, the playing field is different than when you're a volunteer. Now here you're in charge of other people. You're in charge of making sure they have placements, they have their host families. You're in charge of their own coaching. You're in charge of disciplining them, you know, safeguarding issues and whatnot. So you're in charge of their security, you know, risk management and everything. And what really, so again, you get to grow, because the program really is very intentional on growing your knowledge, your skills, your values, your attitudes, your personality. And these are not things that are just, you only reflect later. They're actually put on paper. We want to develop your personality, your attitude, your values, your knowledge, and it helps you through that. So when volunteers would come to me and say, oh, you really helped grow my confidence. Or one of them, Mkaya from the UK, 2 years later, I think it was not even 2 years later, it was sometime in 2019, she asked me to write her reference, and I'm like, but I was a team leader a long time ago, and then she told me, but you were so impactful in my life, and I think you'd be able to write a beautiful reference. And I'm glad that, of course, I'm sure she aced her application and her interview, but she got the job at where she's currently working. So getting to see that tangible impact on the people I was offering pastoral coaching and guidance to, yeah. And also now at a community level, actually getting to identify a problem, work with the community, and come up with change. And I think Lucy, Marina, and Gerishon have given examples of such. The third thing would be being made a social inclusion champion, yeah? So I think that's one gift. I'm really grateful for VSO for partnering with the people who came up with the social inclusion model, yeah. And it was taught to us as volunteers, and we were also encouraged to, if you wanted to be a trainer of trainees, for example, and of course I jumped onto the opportunity, because by this time, I had already formed, through the ICS experience, I had already formed my perspective of what do I want to stand for. That's another thing the program does for you. Yeah, and I knew I'm passionate about issues justice, about inclusion at different level. So the social inclusion experience was so magical to me. Again, it was a very practical model that really helps participants think about what are those stereotypes and attitudes and values that I hold that are actually perpetuating discrimination. And it was not just at that level, but also being given an opportunity to be a social inclusion champion, being trained and now helping others to question their attitudes, their assumptions, and how they may be enabling discrimination. Yeah. So those three would stand out as memorable experiences for me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mbaire. So she's so articulate, she's even answered the second question that I was going to ask. Because my second question is going to be about the challenges, but she has already shared with us challenges. She was seen as an expert, whereas she was new. You were able to offer so much care, more than you actually had already been empowered with, and you stretched yourself beyond what you thought was actually possible. And here you are, social inclusion facilitator and champion, and it excites you because we can tell it. We can actually see it. So I want to take time to thank each and every one of them. And I know their stories are not going to end at all. You can actually see by just saying, I have one thing, one burning one. So I will give you just a moment to just share that one burning challenge and how overcoming it has actually helped develop you.
I promise to be brief. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to highlight this because of also acknowledging the part VSO played in it. One of the major challenges I faced after my ICS experience was youth inclusion, yeah? So, and this is something that I think Mwangi Waituru knows me for, and Kahuria as well knows me for. Every space I go, I'll try to advocate for inclusion. But one challenge I faced was the stark realization that young people were only, the level at which we were included was at either manipulative or tokenism, yeah, or you ask flowers, yeah, we used to be called flowers, yeah. VSO at that time was, like George gave the history of the 60 years, it was at a time when they were really trying to champion youth inclusion, yeah. And I was put in spaces where now I started experiencing that discrimination. But because, again, of the attitudes, the mindset, the values that I had developed through my ICS experience, I was adamant and kichwangumu to push for that, yeah? And I'm glad that now it has impacted what I'm currently doing at African Wildlife Foundation. We are a conservation leadership center and also trying to champion conservation of our beautiful ecosystems. So I'm in the youth program, and one thing then, we are actually, as the youth program, we're the custodians of ensuring youth inclusion. So one thing that VSO helped me do is it introduced me to such tools like the Roger Hart ladder of participation. Like, it's a simple tool, but it helps you articulate at what level are you being engaged, and at what level are institutions engaging young people. And so you can use that tool as a starter for a conversation that we want to go from being flowers to actually being decision makers, to actually being contributors to change. And I'm so glad that I have an opportunity to do that at AWF. And you were asking us, how have we been sharing our VSO story? This is going to be my second year at the organization, and now there's an opportunity we were asked, what do you want to do? And I proposed, let's do a volunteer program in the conservation space, and we're currently working on that, and I'm championing it, yeah.
Awesome. That is fantastic. And of course, the stories can go on because each and every one of you, if you started sharing, you'd have something, right? You'd have a story of your challenges. You'd have a story of all the things that you've learned, the impact that you've actually had. And so we're encouraging you to continue to do that as we have our different breaks and even as we go to lunch. Please share your stories. And remember, at any point, you can engage with us on Facebook, on X, at VSO Kenya. And the hashtag we are using today is WeVolunteer4. So I'm going to ask us to stand. I want us to all stand. And this includes everyone who's online. We might not be able to see you, but I'd like you to all stand, right? I'd like you to all stand. And as we are appreciating Marina, who's online, Lucy, who's here, Gerishon, as well as Mbaire, we are appreciating and recognizing ourselves for the amazing work we have been doing. So could we all give ourselves a round of applause? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And please find them during the break, talk to them, ask them all they had questions, because they've just told you a little bit of their story, and also share your story as well. So Frida, I want to hand back to you. I know you want to take us into a break, but I'm handing back to you for now. Frida. You may remain standing. Do not sit. You may remain standing. Frida.
Thank you so much, Susan, and thank you, Gerishon. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Marina, and Baire for your inspiring stories and for showing us. Like, I do believe that most of us or all of us can relate to your stories, and we do really acknowledge the important part that VSO played in our role in shifting our careers, introducing us to the world of development, and just giving us the confidence to see possibility in the world, and just embracing every skills that we had going into those offices, reaching out to people. So the confidence and the ability to see a world full of possibilities, we really acknowledge that as like VSO's role. And now as we go to the break, as Susan has mentioned, we want to remind you, we would really love to see your post. The panelists, the speakers have really shared inspiring stories that may relate to you, really great quotes and really great experiences. We'd love to see your post on social media. Take a photo of the event, take a photo of yourself with your friend and post them and tag VSO on all social media handles, on Facebook, on X, formerly Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on Instagram. We can't wait to see your posts and repost them. So do that as you go to the break. Share a photo with your friend and of the event using the hashtag WeVolunteer4. Thank you so much, and see you after the break, after 5 minutes break.
So we're taking a quick stretch break. So if you can just walk around, stretch. If you need to use the necessary, go ahead and do that. We'll see you back in 5 minutes for the next session that we'll be having. All right, see you in 5. Thank you so much. Yeah, time, yeah. So what I'll do, I'm gonna really shrink my part.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audiovisual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
From the hospital corridors, we bring you experts to discuss issues affecting your health, from diet to mental health. The familiar and the ignored are both put into perspective. We then dive into the environment and look at the effects of climate change and its solutions. Join me, Mutegi K. Martin, every Friday at 9 p.m. as we learn on how to better our health while taking care of our environment. Only on KUTV.
Baada ya kutafuta kazi, tunaweza kuanzisha miradi yetu ambayo ingetusaidia kubadilisha maisha ya wazazi wetu.
Kwa vijana wenzangu, wengi hawana kazi, lakini ikiwa sisi wenyewe tutajiamini, tunaweza kujiajiri wenyewe.
Afrika kwa kweli tuna mahitaji ambayo ukiyasuluhisha unaweza kuathiri watu kwenye bara hili.
Bila uoga, watu huwa na uzalishaji zaidi, wanajawa na ujasiri, wanakuwa wabunifu na wanakuwa wenye maarifa.
Niliamua kuacha kazi. Hata kama sitafanikiwa, nitakuwa nimejaribu, nitakuwa najua haiwezekani.
Hakuna kitu cha ajabu hapa. Kila anayepata ufanisi hufanya kazi usiku na mchana.
Kitu kitakusukuma na kuwezesha kupata maarifa ambayo hukuwa nayo.
Tunajaribu kutengeneza kitu kitakachopita mipaka ya nchi hii.
Ikiwa unataka kubadilisha ulimwengu, anza na nyumbani.
Technology, science, innovation, ICT and research. These are the ingredients upon which the solutions to the 21st century problems are founded. In a world that is rapidly changing, it's all hands on deck to ensure a balance in all fields of life. Young and old are also in the front line, breaking the glass ceiling, becoming thought leaders in the larger tech space. Not forgetting other societies marginalized. And when the tech Avengers come together, we inch closer to a much safer, efficient, and sustainable world. What we view as a norm in today's advanced world was just an idea, and for nostalgic reasons, we trace back to the iconic days to bring you the retro tech. On Tech Innovation Show, we encapsulate all the pillars of the fourth industrial revolution, decoded in a language, all for one for all. Every Monday at 8:30 as we push the mantra, keep learning something new each and every day. Only on KUTV, a new experience.
Access to knowledge. Solution to unanswered questions.
Guidelines to pursuing your rights and possessing your property, intellectual or material.
This and more only on Law Matters.
We are all seeing the impacts of climate change. In Kenya, for example, the floods, the frequency of the floods is becoming more and worse. The amount of people and livestock we're losing.
The level we need to go is a level where the normal mwananchi and also the government stakeholders can uptake these solutions.
Those small acts multiplied by millions of us will help make a difference in the world at the end of the day.
It's just a slight behavior change that we need, and you'll find that it serves us a bit more than you put in. And that's the goal. We want to live a better world than we found, because at the rate we are going, it's dire.
We will secure the planet for future generations.
Nearly 4 million people live in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya.
Your name in the browser. Type your name and search. Your name. Put your name in the search bar and click go. So search, Google your name. Let me say it another way. Google your name. 2 names. 1 name. Oh my goodness. If you could do 1 name, you will find everybody who's called by your first name. All right. Done? If you're done, say done. Awesome. What do people see on their Google? What's your search? Top search. Search number 1.
Other people.
So Isaiah sees other people. Who else is seeing other people who are not them? Anyone else who's seeing other people who are not them? Okay. Search number 1. Anybody seeing Facebook? Your Facebook page? Your X page? YouTube? LinkedIn? Anyone who has LinkedIn as their top search? Okay. How many people in the room found somebody who's not them? When you Googled your name, you didn't find yourself. You are on page 4. Show of hands, how many people you're on page 4? Page no. Surely. Why now? Or is it because you look for Caroline? Did you look for Caroline? Okay, maybe that's the problem. You're looking for Caroline. So I am going to be talking to us about how you can leverage your LinkedIn profile to talk about your VSO experience. Now, you've all clearly seen. Search number 1 is going to be what? LinkedIn, right? For many of us, LinkedIn actually shows up as the first thing that we actually see. That's how important LinkedIn is. Now, quick check. How many of us are not on LinkedIn? Show of hands. You do not have a LinkedIn profile. Okay, not so many people. Right, so that is actually good news, because it means that we have the potential and the power to leverage this platform that's called LinkedIn. Now, if you're wondering, LinkedIn has over 1 billion users in over 200 countries. So if you're looking forward to telling your VSO story, that's a very good place to do it, because potentially you could reach 1 billion people in over 200 countries. And now LinkedIn is on a very interesting mission. LinkedIn is on a mission to connect the world's professional, to make them more what? What do you see on the screen? To make them more productive and successful. Anyone here who wants to be productive and successful? Show of hands. People who are joining us online, I imagine you also want to be productive and successful. Now, on LinkedIn, you can do so many things on that platform, right? So on LinkedIn, you could do literally connecting with people. You can, those who have businesses, you can actually find leads for your business on LinkedIn. We get hired through LinkedIn. VSO actually has a page on LinkedIn, and they will talk about any open positions they have. They'll talk about the kind of work that they have. You can do very many things on LinkedIn. But the thing that we want to focus on today is, how can you actually tell your VSO story using LinkedIn as just one of the platforms? And the reason why we're picking it as a key platform, like you've seen, when you Google your name, LinkedIn shows up first. So if somebody is looking to find out who are some of the VSO volunteers that I can talk to, if I'm thinking of becoming a volunteer, if they Googled your name, if your LinkedIn profile shows up first, that's your first opportunity to actually have them hop on there and tell your story or get to know more about you. Now, what's the other thing we need to think about? The other thing we need to think about is, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Oh, you don't sound convincing. Are you ready? Oh, now let's imagine this is a football match. Your favorite team is playing. And let's answer again like your favorite team is playing. Are you ready? So I'm going to be showing us 3 quick ways in which you can begin to use your LinkedIn profile to tell your VSO story. And of course, how you can also use your VSO experience that you've had in a previous volunteering time to talk about the skills that you have that a potential recruiter might actually be thinking about and looking for. So the thing we want to think about is, who do you want to talk to on LinkedIn? Who do we want to talk to? Let me hear. Just shout it out. Whom do you want to talk to? Who would you like to talk to through LinkedIn? Potential employers? Who else? Investors? Partners? Fellow professionals or peers? Who else? Clients? People want to be motivational and inspirational. You can actually do all those things on your LinkedIn profile. So the first thing, do you have a LinkedIn profile photo? If you do not, that's the first thing I'd like to encourage us to go and change. So if you do not have a LinkedIn profile photo, that's the first thing. Somebody tell me, when you are scrolling online and you see a faceless profile, what do you think? First thing that comes to mind? Scammer, right? So some of us here, we are walking around looking like scammers to other people because we don't have a photo on our LinkedIn profile. Now, I hear this thing often, but now if I put my photo, people will just be looking at my photograph. They won't be thinking about what I want to say. I want them to meet me as a professional. Some people say, but if I put my photograph, I'm not sure what people will think. So your LinkedIn photo allows you to build something called the know, like, and trust factor. When people meet you and they see you looking like the photo they saw online, they feel like they've already met you. When people meet you and they see and they remember that smiling face that they saw on your LinkedIn profile, they'll actually think, I feel like I know this person. Can I tell you a quick story? I have been on LinkedIn for the last 7 and 8 years. Now, this one time, I met somebody who I had only engaged with online. So we said, we've been talking so much on LinkedIn, can we actually meet? And the day we met, before I said my name, she said, hi, you must be Susan. Anyone want to guess why she immediately recognized me? My profile photo, but more specifically, my hair. Because my profile photo hair is the same color it is now. Oh, well, close enough. But the point is, she saw me, she's seen my face, she's seen my hair, and she's like, you must be Susan. So besides just having a photo, please have a photo that's actually you. Please don't put a photo of your favorite cartoon character, your football team. People want to get to know you. So put your profile photo because that's the first step that you take in connecting with your potential audience. So how many people here are saying, yes, I will put our latest photo? Can I see show of hands in the room? Show of hands in the room. And those online, you can tell us, me. I will actually put my photo online. And then, of course, we are continuing to connect. Anyone want to guess the next thing that you need to think about adding onto your LinkedIn profile? Anyone want to guess? It's a guess. Yes. That's a very good question, Zao. So what kind of photo are you talking about? It's a photo of you looking straight at the camera. It's a photo of you hopefully smiling or at least looking inviting. And it's a photo of you on a clean background. Please, those photos that you take in your village, you know, next to the yellow flowers that you really love or next to the bougainvillea tree. If you have such a background, it can be very distracting. So your background needs to actually be very clear. So have a clear background that it's not competing with your face. And if you do not know how to have a clear background, there are so many tools you can Google online that say, Google how to remove a background on a photo. So a photo of you, a close-up photo, hopefully smiling on a clear background. That's a good photo. So now you want to guess. No, it's not full, so it is a headshot. So what you essentially have for a passport photo that you would take to the embassy if you wanted to get a passport, that's the kind of photo. But you want to have as much of your face visible as possible because we want people to be able to identify and recognize you when they meet you. Second thing that we need to talk about is our experience. And I'm going to ask if you could just move the slides because I'm just struggling with this. If you could move those for me, that would be fantastic. So your VSO experience. How many of us have our VSO experience in our LinkedIn profile? All right. So many of us have potential to add our VSO experience into our LinkedIn profiles. How do you go about doing this? The first thing you want to do is you want to actually click on the plus next to experience and type VSO. And when you type VSO, what it does is it shows you VSO's page so that you can actually select it so that the logo for VSO shows up next to your experience. So under your experience, plus sign so that you can add the experience, find VSO from the drop-down that comes up, and then select it so that the logo shows. Let's go back to this. If somebody doesn't see a logo next to the company you have worked for or that you're working for, what are they likely to think? Scam, right? It doesn't exist. But VSO exists. So we want to make sure that our experience is also linked to the correct VSO. So you select VSO. And then moving on, what you specifically will want to say is, under the description, is you actually say, I volunteered with VSO in Kenya during this period. And you can say a little bit about the project that you are working on. Are you excited about the projects that you've worked on? Would you like a potential recruiter to know that you have that experience? Would you want a potential volunteer to be able to reach out to ask about that experience? So that's how you do it. So you actually say, I volunteered with VSO, that country, that year. And of course, you can say a little bit about that experience. So that's the second thing you need to think about. So first was, number one. What was the first thing that we were actually doing? Profile photos. Second thing that we are adding, our VSO experience. And then the third thing that's most important for us when we're thinking about leveraging our LinkedIn profiles to tell our VSO story or to share our VSO experience is the skills section. Now, still under experience, LinkedIn have done this really nice thing where they actually allow you to link specific skills with a specific position. So you can actually say, while I worked at VSO in Kenya on this project in Kilifi, I acquired the skills of community and stakeholder engagement. I had the skills of communication. So you are actually able to tell that you have those specific experiences under that specific volunteer section. So, item number 1 that we said we're going to change immediately is our what? Oh my goodness, the energy is going away. First thing, profile photo. Second thing, third thing. So your profile photo, your experience, and your skills. With those 3 things, you'll not only be telling a potential recruiter that I have the knowledge and the skills that you need, but you'll also be telling other volunteers, you'll also be telling other people who are interested in volunteering your story and how it changed your life and how they too can tell theirs so that they can join this amazing organization that we've been part of. So, are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? Let me hear from us. When are we going to put our photo? Now. You're going to put a photo now? Right. We shall check during lunchtime who has actually put their photo. VSO experience, who's going to add that? You're going to do it now. Okay, I'm seeing people typing, so I'm imagining they're actually doing it now. I like action takers. Action takers go far. And the third thing that we're going to add is what? Is our skills. Now, I'm going to stop there because that is just the beginning of that LinkedIn journey. There's so much more that you can do with LinkedIn. But as far as your experience as a volunteer goes and just showing it to the world, those are the 3 things that you need to get started. So let's get started today. Let's get started now. And because I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, anyone who'd like to connect with me, please send me a connection request. I am more than happy to connect with you, and I'm more than happy to answer any other questions you might have about LinkedIn during the lunch break. Somebody had their hand up. Okay, all right, no hands. Okay, can we give ourselves a round of applause? Whoever cheered, thank you so much, because clearly you have caught on to what we are actually trying to do. We want to keep our energy up because this is an exciting time where we are all together, and some of us haven't seen each other in a very long time, and some of us are meeting for the first time. So we want to make new friends. We want to make new connections that we can go and work with on LinkedIn, and we want to know how to be able to do that. Now you might be wondering, because in the morning we asked you, when was the last time you told your story? And we said, last week. Some of us were like, oh my goodness, I have never. And some of us said last week, some of us said last month. So in this next session, we are going to be learning the key elements of storytelling. How do I actually tell my story? So that with those tips that you'll have learned in the afternoon, we'll be working together to actually put together a story in form of a campaign that you can do online during different times and using different formats. Are we excited about that? Are we ready for that? Great. So if you're excited and you're ready, I want you to fist bump your neighbor on one side. Fist bump. Please don't do it hard. Make sure it is gentle. Be gentle. Fist bump your neighbor on one side. Then fist bump the neighbor on the other side. Fist bump somebody behind you. Fist bump somebody in front of you. Okay. Thank you very much. Frida, thank you so much. We are ready to move to the next session. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Susan, for that insightful session. Actually, I was on my LinkedIn while you were talking, so that was a really insightful and great session that you had with us. And just to remind everyone attending in person and online that we can't wait to see your post with the hashtag #WeVolunteer4. Tell us what you're getting from the session, what you're learning from the session, share your experience, and maybe a photo with your colleague or your friend. So we can't wait to see your post on LinkedIn and all social media handles. And this session, as Susan has mentioned, is also very important. It builds on what Susan has been talking about. And we are going to be taken through by Hilary Lance, who is an award-winning trainer who knows how to bring out the best in people. She has 20 years of experience in communication skills, and she's passionate about giving individuals the tools and techniques that will enable them step out of their comfort zones and fully express themselves. And this is just the best way for us to go out there and share our volunteering journey. And she's going to take us through the power of influential storytelling and how volunteers, how we can convey our experience with wider networks to boost ourselves professionally and personally, and then also to learn from other people. So I would like to invite Hilary, who is joining us online.
Thank you, and good morning where I am in London. It's so fantastic to be with you all, and thank you for welcoming me. I have been working with VSO, I've realised, for 6 years now, and I often work with volunteers to help them in all sorts of public speaking. And my pleasure comes from hearing the stories that you've already shared with us, and in a brief amount of time to explain why they're important to you and how you can structure and use your own body, your voice, and your personality to get across your message. So the first thing to consider is just look at the person next to you. Wherever you are, if you're at home, maybe you need to look at a plant or a dog or a cat, or there's somebody in the room. But if not, imagine somebody. And if you look at somebody else just across the room, you'll be using something from this communication triangle. So as you can see, a communication triangle is how we connect with others. So you're using something to look across the room at somebody else, your face, your eye contact, and you're seeing in the face of another person a lifetime, a story, a whole range of things that are going on that are different to you but similar. So we share experiences through storytelling. We also recognize the other person in the room. So whether that's virtually, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's face-to-face, it doesn't matter. The power of storytelling has impact because it's delivering something that is about you. So this communication triangle is where we begin. If you think about 3 parts that balance together, you're going to be a much better speaker, and also you're going to get the audience's attention, which is quite a challenge nowadays because people are distracted by many visual aspects, by scrolling, by being taken even into their own minds about what they're thinking about. So when you take a story, and I'd like everybody to do this, even if you want to make a note of it on your phone, tablet, or even writing it down, one story that you can share after my session with somebody else. And the story is obviously relevant to you because you've had an experience similar to other people as a VSO volunteer. But for somebody like me who hasn't done it, you've got to think back to thinking, possibly nobody's heard about this before. And that's a really good place to start. So when we start off looking at this triangle, content is where we begin. So every story has content. It has you at the center of it. You're the main storyteller in your story. Everybody else are the extras in your movie. They're the people who don't normally get the Oscars. They're the people who may be shy, they keep back, or they may be loud people. They're all sorts of people. They're all varieties of people. So every experience you've had could be said to be a story. When you text somebody, when you send information out on LinkedIn, when you do it on any social platform, but more importantly, when you speak to somebody on the bus, when you're walking to one place to another, you're always sharing your content. And the more excited we are about our content, about our ideas, about our experiences, the more likely other people will connect to us because of that. So the difference when we look at a triangle is the content is what you can put together. And one tip I'm going to suggest for everybody after this session is to create a file of stories. Stories, not just personal stories, but stories of people you've worked with, places you've worked in. What makes your experience unique is that you have lived it. So what are the lived experiences? And in this file, have headings. So I've been writing notes ever since the beginning today, and I've come across headings about all sorts of things like youth, social accountability, inclusive education. These are all great headings, but they're content that hasn't come alive yet. It's when we start to share it. The achievements are fantastic, but if the content is just kept in its own space, nobody's going to know about it. So then we move up to delivery. This is the question that I asked you at the beginning. If you look across the room and you make eye contact with somebody, you could even do it again, but how are you making eye contact? Are you adding to it with a smile? Have a look around the room again and smile at somebody and see what you get back. Do you get a miserable face? Or do you get a happy face? Do you get response? Our eye contact and our faces are the most fantastic way of delivering our story, because what they do is they bring alive our experience. And what you're noticing with Veronica, she's bringing it alive with her hands, her gestures. There she is showing us through the non-verbal communication. The body language is so important to so many people. And that's everybody in the world. So your whole body is part of your delivery. How you tell your story, how you put it across makes a difference. So if your tone of voice is low, if you tell your story in a very monotone way, it can sound very boring. And people, no matter how good your story is, or your content, or how many people have come through a program, people are going to switch off. So you've got to think about your delivery as your voice. You've got to think of your body. And this time in the room, if you're in that room, use a gesture to get somebody's attention right now. Use your body some way without speaking to get somebody else's attention in the room. Perhaps with a wave, yeah? Or you did fist bumps, yeah? You just did that. How are you connecting? You're actually making physical connection? Or are you using gestures? What about emojis? Think about what can we do with our hands that create something like a heart. We say a lot with our body. We can also tell if somebody's engaged or not in an audience. We can tell when somebody's engaged, even around if we're doing something like a webinar or we're connecting with people just on a screen, we can see, are they bored or are they engaged? So the more life you bring to your delivery, the better your story is going to be. And then structure. This is something that I want to consider next because it makes up how your story is making impact on your audience. So if you've got a short amount of time on social to put a story across, I would recommend you record yourself with a good structure. You want to get the audience's attention. You want to make your story memorable. All stories are memorable, but if you highlight key points in the story, then it's going to stay and stick with that audience for longer. So a structure of a story is quite simple. It's a beginning, it's a middle, and an end. And I see lots of people have good openings to stories because they get very excited to tell where they began, yeah? And then they have good highlights in the middle, but they often don't finish on a strong ending. So going back to me saying to you, think about a story that you can share with somebody after this session. How are you going to start that story? What are the main ingredients that you want to share? And how can you keep it simple for them to understand? How can you bring it alive with your body? But more importantly, how can you finish on a bold statement, something that you're going to leave them with to take away? So let's move to the next slide and I'll show you what I mean by this. When we open any piece of information, whether it's a speech or whether it's a talk, but particularly in storytelling, we've got to hook the audience in. Now that could be in written material, the handle that you put out or whatever, if you're emailing or you're texting. But I want to take this beyond just the context of written word. I want to think of spoken word. So when you record yourself or you're in front of a group of people, if you're live, you've got to remember that you've only got a short amount of time to keep their attention. And it's going to go quickly if you don't get it at the start. So the ways that I want you to think about your own story is having one line to start it, and one line that is very simple and easy to start with. So remember, this person is hearing it for the first time. They may have lots of their own ideas going on. You've got to make them sit up and listen. So I would say the easiest way is to ask them a question. So I have a question. How many people here have done volunteering? Please raise your hand. That's easy for me to see if I'm face to face. But how many people, if I'm online, have ever considered volunteering to make change in the world? May be a different type of question. Some people use questions that they don't have to have an answer for. It's called a rhetorical question. Volunteering is one of the best things I've ever done because it's changed my life. That be a statement of, so there are many ways that we can open a story. A challenge around a story could be something like, what have you done with your one precious life? And then go into your volunteering story. So the one thing you don't want to do is really start a story by saying, hello, I'm going to tell you a story. Or, hello, my name is Hillary, and this is my story about this. Because what you're doing is filling in all the details that aren't necessary. So how you start, get somebody's attention from the very beginning. There's a quote that I think I wrote down. Yeah, it was Gershon, because it stood out for me. If you want to get close to God, try starting a business. That's going to get somebody's attention. It's memorable. I wrote it down. So if you're talking, your story's got to be relevant. If you're talking about business, obviously the middle part of the story is going to be about what happened around setting up a business. Or if it's you're an entrepreneur and you're sharing your information with somebody who's starting for the first time, think about what kinds of things would they like to know. So take yourself back to the very first time you started a project. Who was there? Who were the characters in your story? It wasn't just you having the experience, your supporters, the people you've supported and helped, because growth comes from the lived experience. So the rich content that comes from our lived experience can also be based on facts. 200 women have been affected by this project. Again, I wrote down numbers. They're important, these statistics. They stand out for us. So if you've got 3,000, really emphasize that number. 3,000 people, 30,000 people. We want to have 300,000 people involved in our project. Because if you make things stand out by highlighting certain words and highlighting certain things that happen, there's more likely to be action happening within your story. So going back to your story, where did it take place? Don't be general. Okay, I come on a workshop today, I hear it's people from Kenya. Let's be specific about the counties. Where was the actual place it happened? How can you make it real for people? Well, you can show them photos, yeah? You can show them slides, you can show them videos. That's great for visual learners, people who take in images. But what about the sensory people, those people who like to get up and do things, those people who maybe don't see? How can you describe that place? And I want you to think about that right now. What does it taste like? That sounds odd. No, I know when I've been to any other part of the world that as soon as I get off a plane, there's a taste in my mouth that is from the air. It could be spicy. It could be, wet. It could be anything. But taste is probably a bit further away from what do we see? What are the place? What does it hold for us? What are the colours? What are the people? What are they wearing? Yeah. What are the sounds? Am I in nature? Is it that I am seeing lots of people, or is it a very quiet area where there aren't many? And think about what the landscape is throwing up. What are the sounds of the people? It all brings to life your story. So those aspects aren't just visual, there's also auditory, what we hear. And the more description we put in the story, the more memorable it is for our audience. So many people said memorable experiences. I think it was Lucy who said, well, what are those memorable stories that you want to share? And remember, there's action. Being a volunteer isn't sitting down, right, and doing nothing. The great part about volunteering and the stories about VSO is you have been a change maker, but not alone, with other people. And what that story inspires is an event that has taken place. So I like to think of stories as celebrations. They're things where people have come together and there is a celebratory mood. And it's something that hasn't really been mentioned today, that through our hard work and our challenges, which are part of the event and part of the action, we come to a place towards the close of a story where we realize we've got a message to share with other people. So when you have described within your story, the story you're going to share with somebody after this session, as well as giving them description and giving them a taste of what it's like to have been there with you, because remember, nobody else has had this experience in exactly the same way as you have. It's original. Nobody can take it away from you. But what it has is a closing message for an audience. And it's what makes speaking and recording yourself and putting out your information to other people so important. Because the message is what you carry within your story. So an example of this is, what lesson did you learn from it? How did you build the courage to even speak your story? Where did you find the will or the courage or the commitment to actually keep going on when you have the challenges? Because the lessons you've learned are what an audience will take away and use for themselves. So you're giving them lots of benefits to take away for them, as well as getting your story heard. You're making them be a part of your story. They're included within it. So your message can be a learning that's taken place. It could have virtue or morals attached to it. It could have the reason why you want to promote the brand of VSO. So why VSO is it's the organization you chose. You could be a volunteer with anybody, but there's a reason why VSO offers you the potential to do the programs that you do, and you put in your bit to enable that to happen. You could also close with a really bold statement about why that is important to you. VSO makes change in the world, and I am a part of that. But you could also add a question. So why don't you become a part of that too? Because if we don't finish boldly, the chances are that nobody's going to take away our message from our story, and that's what sticks, that's what stays. Another good way to finish your story is to go back to the beginning. It's called circular storytelling. And wherever we begin, if we begin with a quote, or we begin with a question, or we could even begin with a challenge. At the beginning, I asked you, what are you going to do with your one precious life? So at the end, I ask you the same question, but this time I say, how are you going to take action to do something with your one precious life? So what you're doing is giving the audience or the person listening or the person seeing your video, no matter when it's made, you're giving them an opportunity to comment either in their mind, so they can think, yeah, what am I doing? How can I get involved? Or you're giving them time to reflect and comment and put something back with the hashtag or whatever you put out on social that they can relate to your story and probably share their own story, probably share their own comments, and make a link, particularly if you're on LinkedIn and you put this out as a short recording. What you'll find is people will respond with their own stories, or they will say how the story has inspired them. Because your closing is a way of opening up more stories. And this is what I think people forget. Because if you offer, we call it a call to action. If you want to get somebody to do something, I would say one of the ways it doesn't work for me on social is, what do you think about this? Or you make a very vague request at the end. What you want to be is strong in your ending, so you put forth what you want the audience to come back with. So you could surprise them. I have a challenge for you all. Write in the comments one word that you're taking away from this experience today. And then go out and share it with somebody else. But you need to be bold. You can't be soft on your ending. You can be soft in your story in the middle bit, but the ending and the opening should be strong. It's like a burger. Think about taking away something, you know. You want to keep all that content in the middle, but you want to take it away. And the other thing about the ending is keep it fresh. So you don't want to keep telling stories over and over again that are the same stories. I'm sure you all know people who do this. You may even see speakers who do it. They use the same story over and over again. So how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep your stories? Well, one way is to keep a series of different stories. I have many when I do public speaking. Humor, light-hearted things that make people smile and laugh, particularly in challenging situations. What are the humorous stories, the funny things that have happened to you, yeah? Think of all the videos that you scroll that are funny, usually animals, yeah? Funny things that we remember. So keep it light-hearted, particularly in a difficult world. Those are the things that people want to see. And then you can come in with the hard-hitting things. If you want funders to give you money, what are the statistics? What are the numbers to prove what you're doing is really making an effect on an audience? So think about contrasts. When you put your stories out there, serious stories 1 week, 2 days, however much you're putting your information out there, but don't get stuck in one style of story. So going back to how you're going to deliver your story, because this is what you're going to do when I'm not there, when I've finished speaking, how are you going to hook somebody in that room or online, and how can you bring it alive? How can you put your personality into it? Well, one thing is be yourself, be an authentic speaker. Don't try and be a speaker. Just share your story and share it from the heart. Then it will have more emotion. Another top tip I say to people, keep it simple. Have one line to open, one line to finish. What are the highlights? Keep them to a minimum of 3 basic points. And they are headings. You don't have to write a script. It's your story. Make it your own. And be creative. Create things for people that are enjoyable. It's quite playful, even though we're in business, to share a story. And you can share it with young people. They love stories. And ask for stories back, yeah? So that you get that relationship going. Also think about boosting the brand of VSO through your personality, because you're going to be different to everybody else. So bring in your own quirks, share the difficulties as well as the successes, and make it a celebration. And other than that, I would say, just make sure that you realize that your stories only work if they're shared. These are ancient generational things that we have been doing for centuries and centuries and centuries. They cross culture, they cross divides. They offer equity to people and empowerment. They also share a cathartic healing when we share our stories. But they are universal, they cross boundaries. And so everybody as children were brought up with stories. And whether your story is different to mine, we as humans connect through our storytelling. So always remember, they're to be shared, not written. They're to be spoken, they're oral tradition. That's how they began. And the more we continue to keep them going, the more alive we bring our speaking for everybody. So I want to thank you for sharing all your stories with me today and with everybody. They have what's brought this event alive. Without you, there are no stories. And so share, even when you're walking, on the bus, when you're walking in the street, when you're online, wherever the potential for communication is happening in every moment. And the more you use yourself to bring it alive, the more it will stay with anybody who's listening. So thank you. I'm going to hand over now to Frida, and thank you all for being a part of the storytelling of everything that VSO is about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hilary, for sharing that. That was an amazing session. And it also connected to what Susan was talking about on LinkedIn. So you've really delved deeper into talking to us on how we can come up with a very precise and engaging content and how to deliver it. And I would just want to call on everyone in person and online, kindly take out your phones. You want to do something, a very simple task from what Hilary has just shared with us. Want to do like a very simple task of sharing and posting on social media using a digital graphic. And for those people who are online, I think you can scan the QR code, and also those who are in person can manage to do that, so that we do this simple task before we end this hybrid session or the morning session. So kindly take out your phone. Every person who is online, I have my phone with me, and scan the QR code. So what you're going to do, if you scan the QR code, or if you get the link of the QR code, you're going to be able to post a photo. So I know most of you, some of you have been taking photos of the event. You've taken photos of yourself. You have photos of you volunteering. Kindly upload that photo from your phone. Upload that photo on that QR code. And then we are going to do something with what Hilary has just shared with us. So for those who can't really scan the QR code, if you can type the link is getdp.co/we volunteer for. It will take you to the graphic where you can upload your photo. For those who are unable to scan, especially those who are in person and maybe far, kindly, you can type the link getdp.co/we volunteer for. So I'm giving you a few minutes to upload a photo of the event, a photo you've taken of yourself during the event. And then you want to do a very swift caption with it from what, again, Hilary has shared. And then you can also be able to bypass the login part. You can click the I'd rather not, so that you just go directly to uploading your photos. So I do understand most of us are uploading their photos right now. So we can go to now the caption. So the caption is a very simple, like we're going to go in a very concise way from what Hilary has shared. So what's your hook? I'm going to give you maybe some prompts. I shared some statistics about VSO Kenya, and also George delved deeper into the history of VSO. What was the striking thing, or a quote from some of the panelists, from Gershon, from Baire, from Lucy, from Marina, a quote you got from them to be your striking hook about the event. So if you can reflect or get on a quote that was mentioned, something that, statistics that was shared, either from George or what I shared, and also anything you got from the panelists to be your hook or your volunteering highlight. And then you are going to your story. Now, in your story, we want you to share something about the event. Now we are in this event. Maybe what you've gained from the event, what you've gained from your volunteering experience. So it just be precise. It can be a one sentence thing. So after your hook, we want to really be able to have the audience hooked at our post on social media. Yeah, we want to see as many people as possible getting to do this. So I'm going to give you time to upload that photo, and then let's do the caption. You don't really have to think, just as Larry mentioned, you don't have to write a script. We can really stick to being ourselves. So we're going to do something very precise. get a hook from the statistics we've shared, any quote you've gotten from the panelists or the speakers, and then we go to the story. The story is going to be based on the event, today's event. What have you learned from the experience, from reconnecting, from sharing our growth? What have you learned about the event? Or what is your highlight about the morning event? It can be a very one sentence. And then we are closing. Do a very precise also close. What's your message? What's your message out there? What are you trying to pass across, like in terms of volunteering, in terms of how volunteering maybe has been important in your life or something of the sort. So what's the message? Let it be like bold, I would say. We are seeing tweets. Actually, we've seen Joseph's tweets. So we like to see your tweets, your posts, and we're really looking forward to like them and share them. And then we would like you to also tag your friends, challenge them to take part in this, upload a photo, and also share what they believe like they want to do, or they believe volunteering is to them, and also about the event. So thank you so much for taking part in that. We're really looking forward to interact with your post and share and reshare. And I would like to thank all the speakers, all the volunteers who are participating, all of you for participating in the event in person and online, and all the speakers for sharing your experiences, sharing your inspiration, and also for George for giving us an in-depth history of VSO Kenya. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Susan, for being an amazing host and for taking us through the LinkedIn training. And I would like to hand over to Susan to take over as it is the end of the morning session. But before I do that, there'll be a quick questionnaire that will be posted on the chat, and also for people who are in person, I think it will be provided for you. We're also calling on to you, encouraging you to connect with the VSO Facebook group and also follow VSO pages to maybe get in touch with what is going on, especially in this event. Thank you so much for creating time to reconnect and for joining the event. I'll take this opportunity to hand over to Susan to take the lead.
Thank you so much, Frida. Can we give Frida and everyone who was joining us online a round of applause to recognize them, to celebrate them? Frida, thank you so much for your energy. Thank you so much for your insights. Before we actually consider this officially done, Frida, I thought I'd do a quick run through with everyone who was in the room for the questions. How many counties is VSO working in Kenya? 25. Okay, Frida, people were actually listening. Okay, what was the next question? How many volunteers have been working outside of Kenya? You're very good students. I am feeling very proud of all of you. All right, how many youth volunteers? Who wants to own the answer? Who would like to jump up and own that answer? 2,000? 2,000 plus. You're all very, very smart. So I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who's joining us online, everyone who's joining us in the room. For those who are joining us online, we hope you have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. For those of us in the room, are you ready? Oh, if you knew what I was asking you, if you're ready for, you'd say yes with more energy. Are you ready? Are you ready? For what? I was waiting for somebody sneaky to tell me for a jig. I don't know if everyone sang that. Did anyone here sing that singing game as a child? Are you ready for what? For a jig. Jigga what? Jigga long. And we would say that. My hands are up, my feet are down, and this the way I jig along. Can we stand up and try that? Please stand up. We are going for lunch. Please. This is the moment we are leading to. We are leading to lunch. All right. Are you ready? You say for what? And then I say for a jig. You say jigga what? Okay, let's try that. Are you ready? For a jig. For a jig. Jig along. And you say, oh yeah. Sawa, let's try that. Are you ready? For a jig. For a jig. Oh yeah. My hands are up. My feet are down. This is where we freestyle. If you want to jig along with your hands here, if you want to jig along with your hands here, it's up to you. All right. My hands are up. My feet are down. Oh, please. I have seen you people dancing in your spare time. Please do not pretend you do not know how to move. One last time. My hands are up. My feet are down. And this is how I jig along. Awesome. Please give yourselves a round of applause. Frida, we were hoping would see you jigging along, but we will choose to believe you are doing it in your heart. So we are happy to release you and say have a wonderful rest of your day. For those of us in the room, as we prepare to go for lunch, I have one task for you to complete. Just one. Just one. When you came in, you all had a name tag, right? Your name tag had a number. So when I say go, you are going to actually find somebody or a group of people who have the same number as you. Okay? Sounds exciting, right? So you're going to find the people with the same number as you. And you're going to go to lunch with those people. And as you're at lunch, ask them, what have you learned so far today? What platforms have you been using to share your story? From everything you have had today, which platforms do you think you want to start using? I haven't said go yet. You still don't know where lunch is. All right. So, we are back from lunch at 1:45 p.m. Can we all do that? We have a wonderful session lined up this afternoon. We'll be doing some focus groups. We'll also be learning how to build your campaign. So we are essentially applying everything that we have learned so far today to help you be able to start to tell your story. Now, something else I do want to say. Madam Martha, where are you? Please wave at the good people. So that is the lovely Martha. Martha tells the best jokes. But aside from telling the best jokes, Martha would love to hear from you if any of the conversations we're having here, you're feeling, I think I need to talk to somebody about something I remembered from my volunteering time, or something that's just come up in the course of the day that I'm feeling I'm not quite comfortable, and I need to talk to someone, and I need to just share some thoughts and some ideas about some things I'd like to see go differently, or ways in which that I feel perhaps have not quite fitted into the session. So lovely Martha, she tells lovely jokes, I promise you, I kid you not. Is the person to speak to. And of course, as you go for lunch, hashtag, you're getting there. I'm hoping after lunch you'll do much better. Hashtag, for a jig. We volunteer for what? That's a nice